The FIFA World Cup is happening right now, and for the next few weeks, billions of people are going to be watching the greatest footballers on the planet do things with their legs that most people who train seriously cannot replicate, despite years in the gym. That contradiction is worth sitting with for a moment. These are not just naturally gifted athletes, they are products of training methodologies built on decades of research that the commercial fitness industry has largely ignored, because the findings are inconvenient for the people selling leg press machines and bilateral squat programs. And the gap between how their legs are built and how most gym-goers train theirs explains something that a lot of consistent trainers have quietly felt but never been able to articulate. You can train your legs for years, watch the numbers on your lifts go up, feel genuinely strong, and still find that your legs do not perform the way you expect the moment real, unpredictable movement is demanded of them. That is not a genetics problem. It is not an effort problem. It is a training gap problem. And the science behind it has been sitting in published research for over 2 decades. UEFA has been tracking injuries across elite European football clubs since 2001. 54 teams, nearly 4,000 athletes, every muscle tear, every ligament rupture, every missed training session recorded and analyzed across a period longer than most people have been training seriously. The dataset is the most comprehensive injury study ever conducted in professional sport, and what it reveals about how legs actually break, and why conventional training does almost nothing to prevent it, should change how anyone serious about training thinks about their leg work. One finding stops most people cold when they read it for the first time. Hamstring injuries across elite football have increased by 4% every single year since the study began. They now account for 24% of all injuries in the sport. In an environment where clubs spend millions on sports science, physiotherapy, GPS load monitoring, and recovery technology that most recreational athletes will never have access to, the most common soft tissue injury is getting worse every year, not stabilizing, getting worse. And the reason tells you something fundamental about legs and about training that most programs never address. It starts with a misunderstanding of what the hamstring actually does. Most people train the hamstring like a pushing muscle. Leg curls, Romanian deadlifts, hip hinge variations. Almost all of them load the hamstring concentrically, or through a slow controlled eccentric under low velocity. They train the hamstring for a job it performs in a gym. They do not train it for the job that actually breaks it. The hamstring is not primarily a pushing muscle. It is a braking muscle. Its main job during athletic movement is to decelerate the lower leg as it swings forward at speed, absorbing force at the exact moment the demand on the muscle is at its highest. During the late swing phase of sprinting, the eccentric load on the hamstring approaches its maximum capacity. That is when it tears, not during a push, during a break. And almost every conventional hamstring exercise trains the push and ignores the break entirely. The muscle is being trained for a job it does not have to perform in the gym, and the job that actually breaks it is being left completely unaddressed. But the hamstring is only half the story. In 2020, researchers published a systematic video analysis of 134 consecutive ACL injuries in professional male football players. What they found directly contradicts what most people assume about how these injuries happen. The most common situation leading to ACL rupture was not a collision, not a bad landing, not contact with another player. It was an athlete sprinting at high speed, planting a foot, and decelerating to close down an opponent. Research published in the Journal of Sports Science in 2024 put a number on the forces involved in that moment. Horizontal loads during high-speed deceleration can reach 2.5 times the force required to accelerate at the same speed. Stopping hits your legs harder than going, and almost nobody in recreational training has ever done a single session specifically designed to train their ability to stop. Think about what a leg press develops. Force production in a straight line, from a fixed position, with both feet on a platform, while seated. It is about as far from a high-speed deceleration as an exercise can get. The strength it builds is real. It just does not transfer to the movement pattern that the injury data from 2 decades of elite sport keeps identifying as the one that actually breaks people. This is not a fringe argument. It is what the data has been confirming every single year. Here is where leg are anywhere near equal, or whether one of them is quietly accumulating a deficit that is eventually going to make itself known at the worst possible moment. Knowing the problem exists is not enough. Elite clubs have spent years building the specific answer to it, and almost none of it looks like what happens in a commercial gym. The first part of that answer is that they treat deceleration as a skill requiring deliberate training, not a passive quality that develops as a side effect of general fitness. Research published in Sports Medicine in 2025 described deceleration as a critical locomotor skill. The mechanics of absorbing force safely through a bent knee and loaded hip, distributing impact across the entire chain rather than concentrating it at a single joint, are coached, tested, and repeated with the same rigor as acceleration mechanics. Stopping is not assumed to develop on its own. It is trained directly. The second part of that answer is the Nordic hamstring curl, and the way most trained people respond to this exercise the first time they genuinely attempt it demonstrates the gap more clearly than any statistic in this video. People who squat their body weight and more will fold toward the floor within the first 3 reps and genuinely not understand what happened. The gym trained the easy direction. Force production. The Nordic curl demands the hard direction. Force absorption. It loads the hamstring eccentrically through a full range of motion at the knee, which is precisely the position the hamstring is in when it tears during sprinting. The distance between how strong people feel and how they actually perform on this exercise is a direct measurement of exactly the training gap this video has been describing from the start. A 2025 scoping review of randomized controlled trials found that consistent Nordic curl training reduced new hamstring injury incidence by up to 60% and recurrence by up to 85%. A 60% reduction in new injuries from a single exercise that requires no equipment, no gym membership, and no cost. The reason most people have never included it is that nobody explained the problem it was solving in terms they could connect to their own training. If this is landing for you, hit the like button right now and subscribe if you are not already. We go this deep every single week, and I do not want you to miss what is coming. None of this is an argument against compound lifting. Squats and deadlifts build a foundation that genuinely matters. The problem is not bilateral training. The problem is bilateral training as the only tool. Because what that creates is predictable, strong in straight lines. Fragile the moment movement becomes unpredictable. The UEFA injury data is not a story about professional athletes with medical teams on standby. It is a description of what happens to legs trained heavily but incompletely, at every level of training. The difference is what happens when it goes wrong. When a professional player tears a hamstring, a full medical team responds within seconds. When you tear yours, you spend weeks in pain and months rebuilding something that did not need to break. The footballers you are watching over the next few weeks have legs built to sprint, absorb, cut, and repeat that sequence for 90 minutes, while fatigued and under pressure. The coaches who built those legs have been using this research for years. The protocols that protect those legs have been refined across 2 decades of the most comprehensive injury data ever collected in professional sport. The question is not whether the research is convincing. The question is whether your program has caught up to it. Drop a comment below telling me whether you have ever attempted a Nordic curl and what happened. Hit subscribe and share this with someone whose legs are strong in the gym and nowhere else. I will see you in the next one.